Today we will be covering 6 basic lighting terms when it comes down to studio portrait photography you should know as a beginner. Let's dive into it. The first light you should know about is basically your main light or key light. And as the name gives it away, this is the main light / key light, the main light which will light up your subject when taking your photograph. This main light or key light usually gets combined with a softbox, octabox or even beauty dish. This light doesn't necessarily need to come from a 45-degree angle slightly towards the side of your model. This light is quite flexible. It can be above your subject, it can be next to your subject, or even to a 90-degree angle on a side of your subject. However, this turns already into a side or split lighting as well. So keeping in mind that your main light or key light is basically your main light which will light up your subject and can be flexible in terms of position. Your next light would be your kicker light or edge light. This also gets confused a lot of times with rim lighting, and we're going to come down to this in a second. Your edge light or kicker light is usually a light placed in a strip box and then placed behind your model to the side with the angle of between 12 and 1 o'clock. Or 11 and 12 o'clock. This light is meant to be there to give your subject a bit of kicker light, usually around your shoulders. When you fire the flash, you get a bit of light around your shoulders, which will separate your subject from a background. This light gets often confused with the rim lighting as well, because the idea of rim lighting and edge or kicker light is very similar. However, the edge lighting or kicker light usually gets placed between 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock and 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock behind your subject to give you a bit of edge kicker light around your shoulders. Rim lighting. Rim lighting also, many people use it as edge or kicker light, as we mentioned before. The rim light actually gets placed directly behind the subject and pointed towards your subject you're photographing, in this case your person you're photographing. This light is meant to give you a completely rim around your body and illuminate the edges of your body. So basically your rim light is different to your edge or kicker light. Your rim light gets placed directly behind your model and the edge and kicker light gets placed slightly to the side of your model. The next light would be the hair lighting or hair light. This light usually gets combined with a reflector and a grid or even with a strip box and then placed out of frame behind the model to separate the hairline from a background. This method will be used also a lot when a model has darker hair or quite thick dark hair, to give the hair a bit more clarity compared to the background, but also it helps you to separate the upper part or the head from a model towards the background. So keeping in mind, the hair light or hair lighting can be placed behind a model, above a model and just pointed straight downwards, or get pointed towards the head or the back of the head to give the head a bit more separation from a background. Another light is a backlight or backlighting. This is a light which usually gets combined with a reflector, or you can even use a bare bulb behind your model. This light gets directly placed behind your model and pointed directly towards the background. This light has several different purposes. It can create a gradient where the light is bright behind her and then grades slowly into the darkness, or you can even use and create high key images with this sort of light and get a nice white background. So keeping in mind, backlighting is a light placed directly behind your model to create either gradient or high key images. There are 2 more basic lighting terms you should know about, and this is positive fill and negative fill. So what is positive fill? Positive fill is nothing else like adding light into your scene to brighten certain shadows up. As an example, underneath the chin or on a side you have a bit of dark shadow line running and you want to brighten them a bit up. You have 2 ways how you can achieve this effect. You can either use a reflector, V-flat or any reflective surface to bounce a bit light back into the scene, or as an example, when you do a clamshell lighting, you use a second light which is placed below the chin as an example and then add a bit of fill light into the scene on a lower power than your main light. Those 2 ways are basically the most easiest ways how to achieve positive fill. You either add a reflector or you add a second light. And the last one is basically negative fill. What is negative fill and how can we achieve it? Negative fill is the exact opposite from positive fill. With negative fill, we want to achieve to darken shadows and take light away from a scene. How can we achieve that? So in this case, we're using a black reflector and add a black reflector into the scene. As an example, a 5-in-1 reflector comes in gold, silver, white, and black reflective material. So let's take this little V-flood here right now. You add positive fill with the white side and you do add negative fill with the black side. So this means basically when a light hits the black surfaces from your reflector, it will take light away and less light will hit your subject, and it will darken the shadows even further because black is absorptive and takes light away. So the easiest way how to create negative fill is with a black reflector taking light away from a scene. So negative fill is basically darken shadows, taking light away from a scene, and the easiest way how to do so is with a black reflective surface. And with that said, I hope you liked this video today, guys. It was helpful when it comes down to 6 basic lighting terms when it comes down to studio portrait photography. And yeah, with that said, like, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff. I see you next time, mate.